Welcome, everyone, and thank you for attending another Silicon Labs podcast. This is the podcast where we talk about Silicon Labs products and solutions. And today we're following up on our series where we're engaging with our business unit segment marketing experts. And today, the expert joining us is Nathan Nunley. Nathan is part of the IoT Business Unit focusing on the smart home. But Nathan is primarily looking into end devices and how Silicon Labs products support those customers and their products. Nathan, thanks for joining us today.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Yeah, sure. Sort of follow the same template I used with your counterpart, Alex, in the last episode, just to get an understanding of your segment. So as I mentioned before, the IoT group's really been focusing on trying to understand these different market segments. Can you talk a little bit about how you define your market segment, the smart home end devices?
Yeah, absolutely. So smart home end device is basically everything that enables smart home applications, outside of a gateway. So a gateway being a cable gateway, Wi-Fi router, smart speaker. So that's what we don't cover. But what we do cover are bulbs, switches, dimmers, security sensors, locks, thermostats, and radiator valves. Those are some kind of the big 4 or 5 device types. We focus on those because the most popular applications in the smart home are going to be lighting, security, DIY monitoring, access control, and HVAC. So those are really the products, the smart home products and services that customers are looking for. Thus, we focus on the devices that enable those applications.
Okay, perfect. And so what do you see, since you've been spending the time looking into it, what are the major growth drivers in this market? Is a new requirement in the industry or new technology, maybe some legal, laws being put in place? What's driving the new design cycles?
Yeah, absolutely. So the smart home market is really driven by smart home system providers, and we typically will call them ecosystem providers. So, the two of the big drivers are new ecosystems entering the market and existing ecosystems or smart home providers continuing to invest in new protocols that enable new applications. So I'll give 2 examples. One is a new technology is the connected home over IP, AKA CHIP, which one instance runs over the OpenThread stack. It's emerging as very popular protocol because it's IP based and open source. And there's some very large kind of consumer companies that are adopting that technology moving forward. So that is kind of an emerging category. So I won't mention the names, but that technology is enabling some new players to enter the market. A second example is actually long range protocols that are enabling, to the yard, or also known as neighborhood area network or NAN level coverage. And so we're seeing some of the smart home providers driving these new protocols that are basically going to take smart home applications outside the home and kind of to the yard and the neighborhood. So we're looking at, new smart home applications that are, again, outside, that would be like, access control, like a gate, a shed, et cetera. Maybe, outdoor asset tracking, maybe some kind of package delivery, like a lockbox, et cetera, that would be outside of the home. So that's maybe one of the second big trends that we're seeing in the space today.
That's great. I know you've been extremely busy. You're a hard guy to get a hold of, traveling around to all the customers. When you engage these customers, what are they telling you? Why are they considering Silicon Labs? I mean, what are we providing them that they're recognizing us as a great partner?
Yeah, so we like to think that it's a number of reasons, but I'll focus on 4 big ones. Number 1 would be ecosystem positioning. So we have a business development team that has good relationships with a number of the large smart home system providers today. So, getting that information from the service providers and the system providers, right, we kind of channel that information back to our product team and then ultimately our sales team so that we can advise device manufacturers what requirements does a device need to integrate with, a smart home system provider that they may be targeting. And then, of course, that can help us build a better product around it. The second would be our, I guess what I'd call our platform approach, in so much that we have single OPN, so single hardware that can enable multiple smart home protocols. Like our Marty Gecko platform, for example, can enable Zigbee, Bluetooth Mesh, Bluetooth. It can enable our OpenThread protocol. So we, customers well, device manufacturers will also often have one SKU or maybe one hardware build, and they'll create different SKUs based on different protocols. So we can enable that, make that very simple for them by having, again, a platform approach, one piece of hardware that enables multiple smart home protocols on our side. Third, as we kind of go down, is all those smart home protocols are enabled by very robust software. And really what I mean by robust, to kind of define that, is that it's very hardened software. So our, Zigbee stack, for example, has been deployed in tens of millions of devices over the years. And all of those developments and deployments drive a variety of bugs that we have to go fix. We end up putting the test cases around those bugs into our QA process, our large scale network testing process, and so we can really harden our stacks in a real world environment. And then the fourth example I'll give is going to be our integrated tool suite. So Simplicity Studio, we have a number of kind of features and integrations in there to make it very easy for customers to develop products and get them to market on our platform.
Okay, yeah, we hear about that all the time, and I know that the customers I've spoken with, that they love the fact that we are well positioned with all the ecosystems, as you said, and our software, our stacks are just leaders in the market. But those are the things that I know about. Maybe why don't you tell me and the audience, what's maybe one thing that they don't realize, or when you go to customers, they didn't realize that Silicon Labs could help them with this. This is like the hidden gem of Silicon Labs engaging these end device manufacturers.
Yeah, well, I'll maybe give three if you'll allow me, Kyle.
Sure.
So number one on the business side is, again, I mentioned our business development team previously, but our BD team can actually help name brand companies in some cases engage smart home providers. So, we'll take a bulb manufacturer, in EMEA, for example, and make an introduction to a US based smart home system provider. That'll enable the bulb manufacturer to integrate into that system provider and then ultimately drive pull through and revenue for their product. So, we can kind of be an extension, like an extension of their sales team. A second one, and I'll give two kind of technical examples. One would be doing schematic and layout reviews. It's a little bit tactical, but we will actually offer free of charge schematic and layout reviews, notably for our 2.4 gigahertz products, really to ensure optimal RF performance. It's something that we do free of charge. We actually do it multiple times free of charge, kind of in some cases. A lot of development goes into, bringing a smart home product to market, and oftentimes it's a radio that is in an enclosed metal box, in the case of like a bulb or a switch, for example. So you really want to ensure that the range is good, and that's a kind of a technical piece of support that we can provide. The corollary would be a software code review. In some cases, kind of a limited number of cases, not always, but as needed, our apps team can do like code reviews where we actually kind of walk through a section of a customer's code, and we'll look for any architecture kind of tactical issues that may be driving poor performance or maybe driving bugs. Again, a lot of that is actually enabled, going back to our tools. We have a feature, our PTI, our packet trace interface, where we can actually do what we call a network capture, where we capture all of the RF communication going over the device, and network capture can be downloaded and provided to our apps team and our support teams to kind of facilitate debugging. But that, every once in a while, that code review is something that comes in really handy.
Well, and I think you're being a little modest for you in the IoT BU. I think what it really says is that, lots of companies can provide some of these things, but the white glove service, or just our support and our knowledge, just with the experience we have, and giving that to the customers with those design reviews, code reviews, it's not minimal. It's very well done. And I've heard that, customers, they say working with Silicon Labs has really helped them get over some hurdles that otherwise, with other solutions, they probably would have gotten stuck at. So you guys do a great job at that. So I'm going to ask one more question, Nate, and then we'll wrap up the podcast. But what do you see in the future? I mean, what's Silicon Labs doing for our audience that's listening? If they're an end device manufacturer, what are you doing over the next 6 to 12 months to make their lives easier and help them make better products?
Yeah, absolutely. So again, I'll give a few examples. One, just at a very high level, is we'll continue to launch application optimized SoCs. So I think we see with the BG21, MG21, it's very application optimized for line powered mesh devices. So we'll look to continue to kind of optimize by device type and by application. A second one is continuing to invest in device or physical level security. So we recently launched our Secure Vault product, for example, and I am not a Secure Vault expert, so I won't represent it too technically, but the physical and tamper detection requirements are continuing to increase in the market, and there are some laws going to effect around that, and we're looking to kind of maintain and lead in that space as well with Secure Vault. Third is going to be continuing to develop or invest in our developer experience improvements. And this is really going to Simplicity Studio and some of the features within Simplicity Studio. We're really investing a lot there. And I'm actually pretty excited to see how that improves our developer experience moving forward, and hopefully can do two things. Maybe reduce the time to market for, for developers and kind of getting new devices out, but also maybe lowering the bar, the barrier of entry for new device vendors. Maybe there's a vendor out there who's not an expert in IoT and embedded development, but may nevertheless want to participate in smart home and the IoT market. And I'd like to think that long-term, our Simplicity Studio can help them get there.
Yeah, I know there's been a lot of focus on that, and this year is going to be a big rollout where customers are going to see a big improvement in the user experience and developer experience. So, perfect. Well, again, thanks, Nathan. This was very informative. Helped a lot of people in our audience understand your market segment. End devices in the IoT, it's booming. It's in everyone's home, and as you said, there's new markets that we don't even know about yet that we'll see in the future. So thanks for that. For our listeners, thanks for attending. Look for new podcasts coming in the future where we'll cover other market segments. So thank you all, and have a great time with everything that you do.